Welcome to the Wildcast Podcast, coming to you from Wildcast Studios, with your hosts Adam Lund and Jeremy Boucher.
Oh, welcome back to the Wildcast Studios for a season recap episode of the Wildcast Podcast, your unofficial voice for all things Moncton Wildcats. As always, fan listeners, I'm in my golf gear again, even though it doesn't look like it this week. And I'm here with your favorite co-hoster in his Hawaiian shirt for the second week in a row, Mr. Jeremy Boucher. I'm old. I went to the golf range, and I think I pulled a hamstring. my right hamstring is not snapping back and healing as well as it used to. There. How was your week?
Not bad. Got over my sinus infection, that I had last week, or yeah. I guess it was more on our live on Wednesday, and coughing up a lung. But no, I got some good meds, and they seem to be working. Got some nasal spray and a horse pill like that big, and that seems to have cleared me up.
Ivermectin?
No, not the COVID, not the COVID disease killer there, but not killer, not pill. Conspiracy theory, that's the one. The
Trump-inspired ivermectin, the Daniel Smith ivermectin.
Yeah, the ivermectin, just drinking a bottle of bleach.
Yeah.
We'll get it right out of your system.
Good times.
I'm not the one that said that, by the way.
Don't
go and do it.
Yeah. We do not endorse drinking bleach or taking ivermectin. Good times, though.
Yeah.
When you think back to all those crazy scenarios of what you could do to get rid of it as opposed to just getting the jab.
And some people that actually believed it.
Yep.
Oh, feeling good. Feeling better.
So if you were down and out, does that mean you got caught up on Big Brother?
No, not even.
Oh.
Not even. Well, I guess. So there was a double eviction last week.
Okay.
So I guess it was kind of a good show. I haven't watched this week yet. So the first eviction. Oh my goodness, who was it? Kuzi, I believe it's.
Oh, really?
Kuzi was the first one evicted on the double, and then going into the second HOH of the night. So Claudia, again, the best thing to come out of Kensington since the Frosty treat.
Yep.
She won the double eviction HOH, and she nominated. Of course, I forget their names, but Ty had won. I remember Ty won the double eviction POV. Saved himself. No. He wasn't in the block. He used it on. Is it Daniel? I think Daniel took Daniel off. Anyways, I forget what happened. That's the gifs of it. It was like a week ago. So my short-term memory's kind of kicking in right now, and I just remember Claudia won the double HOH, the double eviction HOH, and Ty won the POV, but Ty wasn't on the block, but he still ended up using it. I just can't remember who he used it on and who he named as a replacement nominee and who went home as the second. So I'm just, behind. I'm behind.
Yeah.
Behind on it. So I have lots to catch up on. There was so much to watch last week. Did you watch the third longest date on Netflix? The longest third date?
No.
So it's about a couple who met on a dating site.
Yeah.
And so he's originally from Maine and she's originally from Seattle, but they were both living and working in New York City at the time.
Oh.
So this was around, January, February of 2020. So they went on a first date, and I think they just went for, at an Indian restaurant, had a bite to eat, and he gave her like a little kiss on the cheek, and all that stuff. And he was like a vlogger too, so he literally recorded everything.
Yeah.
And so they went on a second date, and they went axe throwing. And again, he's a vlogger, so he recorded everything. And so all his like own footage was part of the documentary.
Right.
So for a third date, this is around when COVID was starting to come around. He engagement proposes, but he proposes the idea of going to Costa Rica for their third date because it is so cheap to fly there.
So this is before COVID, though. Like
They
were going to go to Costa Rica thinking
starting.
like everything was happening. It was going to be fine, right?
So COVID was kind of just this would have been March 2022 when COVID started to
2020.
2020. Excuse me, when COVID started to really come around.
It's not the ivermectin, folks.
So he proposed. He says, "Let's go to Costa Rica. Flights are really cheap right now. It's like $200 return." So they go to Costa Rica together on just would have been a 4-day trip.
And then
lockdown.
Wow.
So they literally ended up being together in Costa Rica for close to 70 days together.
Holy.
As on the third date. On the third date, they had to sleep in the hotel together, and then the hotel they had reserved, and they just keep pushing out the reservation, keep extending their reservation. Eventually, the hotel says, "We're closing down because we've been told to close down." Well, they still don't have a way home. So then they have to then find Airbnb. So they find an Airbnb, and they explain to this owner about their story. And they got a really good deal, apparently. So they stayed there for 20 days.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So they stayed at this Airbnb for 20 days. And then eventually they left that one and found another one on the other side of the country. And then they ended up being together in Costa Rica on their third date for, like almost 70 days. And
Jesus.
so they went there in March and didn't get home until June the 2nd. And so they flew from, Costa Rica into Houston because that was the only flight they can get. And then they had to find their own way to, back to New York City.
The other side of the country?
Yeah. So but they're still together.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. They're still together.
Wow.
And it talks about that on the documentary as well. It's really, really cool. It was, I don't know how she did it. I don't know how he did it, but I think the fact that she kind of didn't mind, I guess she minded the camera around all the time because he literally was, again, videotaping everything in Costa Rica. And that's how they got all the footage of their dates and stuff like that. And, it was neat. It was, it's an hour and a half. It was kind of cheesy, but also kind of interesting because you're like, wow, could you literally see yourself spending 70 days with the person that you're with
now?
Third date on?
But third date wise,
it's an interesting. I probably just ruined it for anybody that hasn't watched it, but that's kind of the gist of it. Is that they end up going on a third date to Costa Rica and end up living together for 70 days.
Because you don't know a lot about a person after a third. I mean, I guess depending on how your first 2 dates went and what you did, but I mean, axe throwing, you're not getting into major family life and all this stuff. So to spend 70 some days when you have no choice, what's it called?
Longest third date. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So it's a quick. I started it Sunday night around 8:30, and it was done by 9:45. So it was it was fun. It was cute.
Nice. We watched The Diplomat.
Okay,
it's like a 6-part series. It's a pretty good show. It's pretty funny. I always like watching one show, and then you end up watching another show, and it's the same actor but 2 totally different things.
Yeah.
So we started watching The Americans from 2013, where Carrie Russell, spoiler alert, is a KGB spy in America, and now she's a U.S. diplomat. And I'm like, she's really come a long way from being a Russian spy to a U.S. diplomat. But it's so crazy, though, just the way that our TV show has changed in everyone's lives. Like, I want to watch Ted Lasso season 3. There's only 4 episodes out. I'm waiting till they all come out. Like, I'm annoyed that they don't all come out at once. Or Succession is a weekly episodic show now. We're caught up enough that I'm annoyed that they're not bringing them out. And growing up, if it was a weekly show, like Friends was once a week.
Yep.
Big Bang Theory once a week. Full House once a week. But if you missed it, you missed it. You might catch a rerun at like 10 o'clock at night, like 4 days later. But no such you missed it. You missed it
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you were going to be away from it, you set the old
VCR.
VCR.
That's right, man.
With
Get one of those cassettes in there, and you had to take the record and the play button and jam them both in at the same time. And if they're both jammed in at the same time, you knew the show was recording, and you're like, big success.
Yeah. I went
Those were the days.
Every time I go back to my parents' house, they had this old, we moved into my granny's house, and they had the old style wet bar downstairs. Mm-hmm. They had the big bar that was this tall. And it ended up not being a bar when my parents remodeled, but it became the TV was on there, the video games, and you opened up the flap or shelf, I guess, and all my videos are in there. So I have the 2002 NBA Finals, every game, the 2000 NBA Finals, the Pacers and the Lakers, every game. I think I have all 4 national championships and semifinals from 97 to 2000 because I would tape them playing basketball to go back and watch and get better, and Metallica on Saturday Night Live. I don't even have a VCR to play these things, and I just got tapes upon tapes. I don't know how many Monday Night Raws I got. Yeah. But you got your parents would tape something, you'd be like, put a tape over it. Yeah. Write something.
We're really showing our age right now.
All the young kids that watch, they're like,
what's a VCR?
Hey, Mom, what's a VCR?
What are they talking about jamming the record and play button?
Yeah. What do you mean you can only record for 2 hours unless you did a different way and then 7 hours?
What's a cassette?
Yeah. What do you mean you can only watch one show once? Huh? Yeah. That's it's crazy. It just frustrates me. I'm just I want to watch all the Ted Lassos.
Yeah.
And now on YouTube too with all its ads. I tried to watch Matt Rife, his second comedic special.
Yeah.
5 minutes, 2 ads.
Yeah.
7 minutes, 2 ads. I'm I get that that's how he's get paid. And hey, we're on YouTube, so hopefully that's where we get to. But that's how you get paid. But it's just I almost said to Layla, I was like, you know what? Let's just pay for the YouTube Plus. And she's like, I'm not paying for another service. I'm like, that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And we just kept watching.
Yes, boss.
Yep. Yes, boss. All right. As always, don't forget you can follow us on our social medias: Twitter, Moncton Wildcast, Instagram, Wildcast Podcast, TikTok, Wildcast Podcast, and here, of course, on YouTube, ad-free for now. Just hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get to some news and notes from around the queue.
News and notes from around the queue.
Well, let's put this in order. There were some more awards given out. We'll get rid of that real quick. The Kevin Lowe Memorial Trophy for the best defensive defenseman, Hines, Pierre-Olivier Waugh, and Nicolas Savoie. Tyson Hines won that. The Emily Bouchard Trophy for Defenseman of the Year, Frederic Brunet, Tyson Hines, Tristan Leno. Tristan Leno won that. Those two, him and Etienne Morin, were kind of 1-2 all season, and then Leno had more points, Morin had more goals. Gatineau was on a wagon of a team, so kind of makes sense there. Scholastic Player of the Year, the Marcel Robert Trophy, Julien Biland of Rimouski, Cataford of Halifax, and Pellerin of Victoriaville. Julien Biland of Rimouski won. Nerd. So this is the week we get into the Coach of the Year, General Manager of the Year, and by the time we come back, all the awards, Personality of the Year, and Jordan Dumais MVP crowning. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Not bad.
Etienne Morin won bronze with Team Canada in a 3-2 victory over Slovakia in overtime. Very entertaining overtime.
Yes.
But I think I tweeted you, or I messaged you, and you messaged me at the same time, and our messages popped up. I don't think I saw Morin on the ice in overtime.
Didn't get a single minute of overtime. That's a joke, if you ask me.
A little weird.
It's just, I guess maybe it's just us. I guess maybe we're used to seeing him on the ice for overtime, but different.
And maybe it was a
he was
win
late,
with the team you brought there, and he showed up.
He's late ad, right? So it doesn't necessarily help. But I mean, you're right. He should have definitely gotten a little bit of ice time out there, especially on the big ice and the way you can skate. But he got the bronze, and I mean the Americans that always seem to dominate this tournament because they can bring their best players compared to the Canada just can't because their best players are still playing. I think that was their first gold medal of that tournament since 2017. I think. Yeah, which is hard to believe. I mean,
and Sweden looked good too.
Sweden was really good. They were a really good team.
Canada.
Yeah, they're a really good team. They're gonna have a lot of guys drafted in the NHL. they're going to be a force at the World Juniors in a couple of years.
Yep. These next two things kind of go together. Obviously, the big news, you were there for YouTube. Almost 100 people joined us. Pat McNeil joined us, Mavs, Braden Olofsson. The Wildcats, with a 28% chance, won the QMJHL draft lottery last Wednesday. They will draft first overall. The order is Moncton, Chicoutimi, and then it was status quo, Blainville, Val-d'Or, and Rimouski, which led to my one scouting game I watch a year. The U18 Club Nationals, not the TELUS Cup, which I found out from you. Thank you. Because that's sometimes when I get ready to tweet things, I go through Jeremy for the proofread, and he helps me out with that.
I didn't even know until the morning of. So.
Oh, really?
There you go.
I wondered why it wasn't, like, I didn't see many things for the TELUS Cup. I just thought it was... Yeah. Quite the game. If you're a Wildcats fan, prospect Vincent Lagarre and SSF Blizzard defeated Saint-Hyacinthe 3-2, and kind of a, I don't want to say boring hockey game for 40 minutes, but it was 0-0 after 40 minutes. Both goaltenders were pretty good, and then just the Blizzard just weren't going to be denied. Every time Saint-Hyacinthe came back, they just kept going. A couple of those Cloutier is going to want to have back. I was kind of surprised that Dauphin didn't play for Saint-Hyacinthe, but this is now the second year in a row the Wildcats have had a national champion as a prospect. So Richie's doing something right. But some names to pay attention. Denoyer and Emile Guité. Is there any way we can have both of them? Because they were talking about those two being teammates since they were 12, and you saw it a couple times, the one-timers that Denoyer was setting up for Guité, and I'm just like, I'm so glad I have a platform to ask Mr. Boucher this question, and realistically, without selling the farm, is there a way to get both of them?
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, it's going to involve trading up, but you're going to have to package those two other first-round picks that we've got, and probably
another first.
I mean, it's because Guité, I kind of put together a bit of a mock draft over the weekend. Not something I want to reveal right now, but
stay tuned.
I mean, he's probably third or fourth. It's and he could easily make a case for second. He's that good. He really reminds me of a Loshing. He's kind of that trigger guy on the power play. Yeah. He's always going to be on the left shot on the right face off dot.
A couple times on the dot, he can let it go.
Yeah, he can. And I guess my only issue with him, and again, I've probably only watched 3 or 4 of his games. He's a one zone guy. He's
in my one game that I watched a year.
Yeah.
I totally know what you and Braden were talking about. Actually, I think it was you that Guité may have more points, but Denoyer is what made that team go, and he's the full 200-foot player. And after watching the one game, I was like, yeah, I think given the choice, I think I want Caleb Denoyer.
Yeah, he's
number one.
He's the engine, right? He's the guy that runs the team, and everything goes through him. But he's also, he's as good of a playmaker as he is a shooter, but Guité was the shooter on that team, and it showed. And I mean, Guité was the MVP at the tournament, right? So it showed the tournament that he had, and I had a source tell me that Denoyer was hurt, was injured, played the tournament injured, but he still looked super good, right? But yeah, Saint-Hyacinthe. I mean, those two teams just. The first 2 periods, I think they just simply ran out of gas. And the third period, just pour it on, empty the tank, and see what happens. And, it's SSF emptied the tank just a bit more than SSF, but it came down to literally the final buzzer.
Yeah.
And is it Pancor or Ray?
Pancor, yeah.
Pancor made some 5-bell saves for SSF.
It could have been at least 3-0 for Saint-Hyacinthe in that first period. Like, he kept. I think he grabbed at least 6 off the goal line.
He's crazy, and even in the final minute of the game, he paddled down, 2 inches more. That puck is in the net, and the game is tied. And he had a phenomenal game. And no, Dinway's got all the tools. Like it's, checks all the boxes. He's got everything. Guite, I think it's, I might sound silly when I say this, but I see him as a one. Right now, he's a one zone guy. He's going to have to learn how to play the defensive side of the game.
Yeah.
But his offensive awareness is off the charts. His defensive awareness needs a little bit of work. And so that's kind of why, when Braden took Guite first overall last, on our live, I was like, oof, geez, that's you're leaving the door wide open for me to grab arguably the most complete player available. And so that's how I see Dinway. I see him as the most complete player available.
Now you teased on that show about a defenseman that was kind of coming up the ranks.
Yes.
And SSF had a couple of them in Tremblay and McKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
Would they be on Moncton's radar at 13 or even 18?
Yeah,
because they're kind of the. I had it up here. I think McKinnon was the 20th prospect overall. I just don't. I don't want you to give the names, but are those two names that you kind of possibly could see in if we keep all our picks?
Yeah, I think so. You're probably, they'll both still. I think both are still available when Moncton would pick at 13. And I think one of them could still be available when Moncton picks at 18. So I think there's a good chance of getting one of those two guys. McKinnon, I mean, the fact he's listed as a defenseman, I think he played more forward. He was always at the front of the.
Fits right into Moncton's style. Grab a
he
defenseman.
He just seemed to play more forward. It's like there was a I think a goal in the semifinals or the quarter or whenever it was, and you don't often see a defenseman parked in front of the net with your stick on the ice redirecting a point shot.
Yeah. Right.
And it's so I don't know if that's more just where they see him as a being an ace in his place, as being a kind of a guy in front of the net on the power play, even though he's a defenseman, but he scores a lot of goals. And so I don't know if that's just a decoy or if he's just more or less showing off his versatility.
Yeah, they're ranked 18th and 19th, so they could be around depending if Moncton moves up and or down in the draft. I think I know your answer to this, but if you could take two, if Moncton's going to move up and Richie's going to push all in and go up to 1 and 2, Denway and Guite or Denway and Wang? Because I think I know your answer.
I have to go with Wang just for or Wong or Huang. I don't know exactly how to pronounce.
Alex from Saint Eustache.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of that's where I'd want to go, because I mean at that point you take Dinway at first overall, you're getting the most complete player available, and then you take Huang or Wong at that to trade up to get him, you're getting probably the best skater available in the draft. So you're basically getting you've already got your left shot power play quarterback. Well, with him, you're getting your right shot power play quarterback. It's kind of, and that would be a deadly power play. If you don't even put them together, just keep them on on separate
PP1
units.
and PP2.
Exactly right, and you've got a quarterback on each power play. But
because I think I saw on the boards people were comparing Moncton moving up to get two of these players to what Halifax did when they got Olivier Grew and McIsaac. But someone else pointed, and I can't remember who it was, that they got McIsaac because he wasn't going to Baie-Comeau, who had number 2, and Chicoutimi just isn't going to willingly give this up. And a player, these Quebec players, they have no problem going to Chicoutimi. They got no problem going to Blainville. Yes, that would be good to get a top forward and a top defenseman to set you up, because this is a very important draft, because if the Wildcats seem to have intentions of hosting the Memorial Cup in 2025, and, Richie's had a couple good drafts, but when you've got a 1, a 13, and I think 18, you really got to nail these picks. And if you're going to move up, you better be sure that you're moving up to 2 to get your 2 guys, not moving up to 3 and hoping one of your guys falls, right?
So for the sake of making the argument, let's go to the draft in 2016 in Charlottetown. When
you were there.
When I was there. and Bacobo traded number 2. Yeah. So Halifax, this is what Halifax had to give to Bacomo to move up to 2nd overall. The 16th pick in that same draft.
Mm-hmm.
The 7th pick in that same draft. So 7th overall, 16th overall, 24th overall.
So a second rounder.
Yeah. And then a first the following year, which was Ruin Aranda's pick. I don't remember where that pick ended up being, but we can easily go.
But either way, that's
so
three
it's
firsts
three
and a second.
firsts and a second.
Are you willing to pull that trigger for Alex Wang, knowing that you're going to get at minimum 2 years, and after that Memorial Cup, you're going to haul back for him?
My concern is we don't have a second this year.
Right.
So that's going to hurt the.
Now you could put a player in there.
You could put a player
in there, which appeases that. I think I'm okay doing that.
Okay.
Because I've been on the whole time we've talked about from the Ethan Gauthier, in our former studios to now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying, will Moncton have one pick? I think they'll come away out of that first round with one. I think they're going to move some to get guys. I think I'm okay with that. If he's as valuable as you and Braden and everybody else has him, I think I'm okay giving up the 13th, the 18th, a first next year, and either a player or a second next year for these 2 players for 2 guaranteed years, and then get the haul back the following Christmas. And of course, it'll be much easier if we get the Memorial Cup, and if you know you're going to get it. And these 2 players would make it a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for, desirable for us to host a Memorial Cup. If that's, I think I'm okay with it if we're hosting a Memorial Cup, because that'll give us the best chance to raise a banner, and then it doesn't matter what you give up if you win the banner.
Yeah.
So I think to get the 2 best players of the draft and have Wong, Fortier John, Moran, and I know I'm missing one. Wong, Moran, Fortier John, and somebody else as your top 4, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Marcel would be like the 20-year-old if he's here, or whoever, right? Maybe even Grenier. I'm okay with at least those 3. That's a very good defense.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm trying to find where that Aranda pick ended up. So I've got to find that trade now, which is going to take me a little bit, but because that would have been the preseason of 2016 when that trade was made. So let's look at. So I mean that's
a lot of your future.
That's 2 firsts. It's 3. Yeah. So essentially, we don't have a second round pick.
Yeah.
But we do have the 2 other firsts. We probably are going to have our own. We have our own first next year, which is it's going to be a later pick. It's probably going to be in that 13 to 18 range. And then you're probably going to have to throw in a prospect if we don't have a second. So let's say we throw in Sidney Delorier, right?
Yeah.
Who was, I think, a 3rd-round pick last year. But you're still probably going to have to pay a little more. It's going to be an expensive trade to make. I can't give an answer right now. I don't want to give an answer right now. Just it's too much for me to process in my mind.
I think that the argument against it that I can make for myself is if you give up the first next year, you don't have that piece at the draft to add an impact
and that's
player. Right? So you're hoping that these 2 have such an impact, and your other picks hit in free agents. I think if you have a chance to host a World Cup and you have a chance to go get the best defenseman and the best forward, why? Like, yes, it worked out for Halifax because that's exactly what they did, and then they hosted the Memorial Cup and they got to the final. I don't know how I feel if we made the trade and got to the final and didn't win, but if you end up raising the banner, I think I would do that, but that's why I sit here and I don't make decisions.
Mm-hmm. See, I can't make that call right now. I need to write it down and look at it and make a decision. I'll come back with an answer for you in 2 weeks, just because I need to. I can't. It seems like it would make sense, but I also don't think that we're missing a piece.
Right.
Is what I want to is what I think. So I need to kind of find, I need to find the missing piece that we could throw in. That's my only thing, right? If we can somehow get a second round pick at the draft, how we would do that is beyond me. But if
that would have to be a player somewhere the night before, because the trade deadline opens up the night before or whatever.
We'd have to somehow find a second round pick. And I mean, there's not much room on this roster, as is, in my opinion. So who would we move out to get that second round pick? What trade would we have to make to get that second round pick in order for us to come up with a similar package that Halifax sent to Bakehomer to get second overall? It's
I have an idea, but I'll tell you on.
Yeah, that's I'll sit down on it. I'm gonna write some numbers down and write some names down, and
I think the other
in 2 weeks, your quick question for me will be, Jeremy,
will you give it up? All right.
That's a quick question when we're back in 2 weeks.
Perfect. I think the other part, as you were talking about writing it down, and our cupboards are kind of like, what's the move? I think the fact that we have had success in the later rounds gives me a little bit of, okay, I'd rather do that and hit later rounds than, because you don't know at 13 and 18.
No.
They might hit. More than likely they do, but you just don't 100% know. So, yeah, we were going to talk about the semifinals. I guess we could do that a little bit. Sherbrooke up 2-0. I think the surprise for me is Quebec up 2-0. I thought that at least be a
my
split.
perfect record is in jeopardy here.
Yeah.
But no, if there's a team that can come back from a 2-0 deficit
At home, it's Gatineau.
It's Gatineau, yeah.
You're never in trouble till you lose at home, right? That's the quote unquote theory. I'm not gonna. This might sound like I'm hammering on Halifax, and I'm not. But they knew that they were in tough, and everyone knew that they were in tough. They weren't playing Cape Breton. They weren't playing Moncton in the playoffs. Yes, they caught Quebec because their schedule was very favorable down the stretch. And I don't know if maybe that hurt them a little bit. They didn't have to go at full gear. And it's tough to always just flip on a switch, especially in the third round of the playoffs. But I have hope for them to come back and stretch this series, because they almost got game 2. They almost evened it up. Both games went to overtime. So I still feel good about Gatineau going home. But I do think that Halifax can get a couple, at least one in Sherbrooke to get it back home. And then who knows? Because I think these series are all 2-2, 1-1, right?
Yes, they are. Yeah. Once you get the semifinals, it's
the classic Sherbrooke and Halifax changing.
They were literally traveling on the same plane. Yeah. Oh my god, I hate that. Can we talk about Zach Leroux taking a shot of mustard on the bench?
Apparently, that's for leg cramps. If I have cramps, I eat a banana, right? Because Munenori Kawasaki, Blue Jays, absolutely love him. Yeah.
Did an interview with I forget his name now, but he talks about eating bananas when he has cramps because monkeys never cramp. So he says, I eat bananas because monkeys never cramp, and so I took that as an educational piece when I heard the interview.
Yeah,
so anytime I have cramps now, I eat a banana.
The more you know.
But mustard?
I guess, yeah. Because somebody asked Halifax why, I think they said Dume or Doucette, one of the two, and they said, it was LaRue and he does it for cramps. And I'm like, you could have given me 50 guesses on a food that doesn't help with cramps, and I might have got to bananas. I know I would have said Gatorade off the top.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that might be the first time I've ever seen someone eat mustard.
I was disgusted by that. I need something with it, a hot dog But I don't know about eating a hot dog in the middle of a game. That might not work very well.
Mark Sanchez did it for the New York Jets.
Well, yeah, but a little different.
But imagine LaRue just turns around.
Big dog, big
Takes a
wiener,
big
wiener in his mouth.
Takes a big bite. Favreau's like, let's go. He's trying to chew it down while he puts his mouth guard
Easy
in.
there, Joey Chestnut.
Yeah.
No, that was weird.
Yeah.
And I love how Halifax is. I want to say this in a very nice way here. They're trying their best to have their fans feel pity for them. Tweeting like, "Oh, Jordan Dumais is out for the rest of the game with an injury," and they're like, "Okay, it's great that you're being transparent." Or Biaska's not in the lineup because he has a flu. Excuse me. Don't tell me about a sickness ruining a team's playoff run here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, an injury ruining a playoff run.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
The article from Kevin Barrett with Josh Lawrence, Rimouski had a sickness going through, which I don't remember hearing that.
No, I don't either.
And I think we had Tozer on in and around that, and I can't remember if he told us or not. He might have, and I just don't remember because it was many, many years ago. But I thought that was perfect timing for Lawrence's article to come out, and then Biaska to be out. And my, how the turntables.
Oh, my man. Imagine losing a series or losing games because you have injuries or a sickness.
Yeah.
Never happened here before.
Nope.
I've never heard of that.
Nope.
So,
but man, if they
must have sprung up overnight.
If they get two in Sherbrooke, character comes to mind. Character will come to mind with Biaska returning, Dumais possibly returning. Character wins.
It's
the highs are highs and the lows are lows.
And they've got to win the next one.
Yeah.
They've got to win the next one.
Yeah.
And if they win the next one, they can probably win the next one. But if they don't win the next one, they're not going to win the next one. So the next one is very important.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of pundits saying, well, finally these sweeps and short series are over, and right now there's quite a potential for both these teams to be done. Maybe they're both like, you know what, let's just get this over with and then start the fourth round early and then get a bit of a break.
Well, that's it, right? They kind of, do they have to be lined up with the OHL?
I don't think so.
They don't have to be, right?
No, because I think the OHL was going when
London's got a 2-0 lead, I think, last time I checked.
Yeah, I think so.
And Seattle's got a 2-0 lead.
No, London split.
Did they split?
Wait, who's North Bay playing?
Peterborough.
Yeah, so they're split.
Yeah,
1-1.
And London's Sarnia.
Then,
They're up 2-0, and Seattle's up 2-0.
Yeah.
On Kamloops, which is best case scenario.
Yeah, you get two playoff rounds in, you get a week and a half off.
Yeah,
or 2
and
weeks
you've got
off.
the best team in the entire WHL representing the WHL, and you have one of the best teams on paper as the host team.
Yep.
And let those teams just kill each other.
Yep, they did it smart over there in Western Canada. They're not gonna lose round, although I think they did win last year. But they're setting up that both teams might end up showing up on that Monday night or Wednesday night stupidity final. All right, let's get into our season action. Well, we're here.
Weekly Rewind.
Season Rewind.
Weekly Rewind, presented by Sports Pub. Looking for a great place to have some wings, beers, watch sports with your friends. Well, basically the NHL playoffs. I mean, home ice means absolutely nothing. Head to 1715 Main Street, where the Salty Sea Dog used to be. Happy hour Mondays. Most of the products are $5.50 a pint, and well, you get a pound of wings and fries for $15.99. Tuesdays on Wing Night, which, once you hear this, if you're a Leafs fan, Game 1 was last night, so never mind, because my thought was coming out. Yeah.
Florida only gets 1 day off?
Yeah, 2 days.
Holy crap.
Yeah. That's why you got to finish that thing early, bro.
Oh, man.
I know, it's always been weird to me that, and the NBA, Game 1, Miami and New York, was played before Game 7, Golden State and Sacramento. And then the night before that, before Game 7 of the Colorado series, Denver and Phoenix, they start round 2 before round 1's done. Probably based on building availability.
Yeah, because there's so much crap going on.
But yeah,
That's where I didn't know that.
Yeah, Florida got 1 day off. So here we go. The season recap. The Wildcats finished 35-29, 2-2, 7th in the league, 3rd in the conference, 2nd in the Maritimes. So before we get in kind of individual grade, which we're going to do grading in groups, we're going to grade the season. For me, I'm going to go with a B- for the year. They finished where we thought they would. I thought a lot of the young guys took strides, but I probably would have given them a B+ or maybe even an A- had they not gone so cold in the first part of January, February, going 9 of 10, and then just like lost 9 of 10, win 2 of 3, lose 3 of 4, win 2 of 3. Like it was just so hot and cold. They finished 10 and 2, which is why I gave them the B-. So for me, I'm going to go with the B- on a whole. What do you got?
Yeah, it's I'm kind of around there too. I'll go with I'll just go with a B. Same reasons as you. You know, they got off to a decent start. They had the chemistry. They were rolling. They're, you know, I think we mentioned a few times in the first half they were winning games they shouldn't have been winning. You know, and then the trade period happened.
Yep.
And I never realized how important Thomas Darcy and Frankie Iasenza were to the team until they were gone. And then it just kind of went downhill a little bit. And I remember we were calling for Lacroix to be fired and this and that. And then, you know, it got to a point where, you know, he held those individual player meetings and
took a while to get going.
And for that first game after those player meetings, they lost to St. John, which was, again, our first reaction was that didn't work. You know, he's completely lost the room. But you know, I think it eventually did turn around, and you know, I think he's kind of done enough to be back next year. You know, I think that 7-game series against Baie-Comeau probably saved his job, in my opinion. You could say Barbashev saved his job because of that goal in Game 7 in overtime. But and you know, the one win against Halifax, to me that was another reason. You know, you won two huge games in a matter of you know 48 hours, 72 hours, or whatever it was, and I think those were two key factors in you know, that he can easily say, look, this is me. This is what I can do, is I can get this team up for big games. And you know, it was only 3 months ago that we wanted him gone. You know, it was probably 2.5 months ago more. And it's so it was like Kevin Barrett said, there was a lot of ups and downs. It was a roller coaster of a season, but he said there was more ups than downs. I would say, yeah.
On a whole season, yeah. Way more downs than ups in the second half.
Yep.
But on a whole, I would say there was more ups than downs. Interesting you bring up Lacroix. I'll save that to the question at the end once we do these grades for you. So we'll get into goaltending. Steinman goes 21-16. Fillion goes 14-13. 309 for Steinman, a 4 goals against average. I'm going to go a B+. Because, and it could have been higher. Steinman, I won't say he was the reason we made the playoffs. We were going to make it anyways, but he was the reason we were the 3rd seed. He was the reason we got past Baie-Comeau. I have been a Fillion truther. We both have been Fillion truthers. This isn't Fillion. This is the way he was treated in 3 years. He didn't get the starts he should have gotten with 2 20-year-old backups to let him learn, to let him grow. And unfortunately, I mean, last year Couture was just a free find, and that happens. Steinman again, free find, and that happens. And he played so well. And I like Steinman's game. He's got some work to do. But I think coming from a junior B to the Q in your first year, does he have some holes? Yeah, absolutely. Does he? Sometimes he got caught being too aggressive on plays. That the LaRue power play goal, he's trying to push across. He just can't get over there and has to dive to try and stop it. I mean, he has some holes, but he gave the team a chance to win every night, and he's what kind of buoyed this. And I don't think 31 will be back. And again, I like the kid. He's had great games when he's been put in after sitting on the bench for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But I think he needs to get out of this. I think he needs to be in the Quebec market, and there's a couple teams that need goaltenders moving into next year, and I think a fresh start for him would be fantastic. But there was nothing on 31. It was, for me, the way he was treated.
Yeah.
And that 10 goal game was just it for me.
No, and you're right. Yeah, Steinman to me was an A. Like, it's the season's complete write off if he wasn't here.
Yeah.
And again, free find. I have the greatest amount of confidence with him being our number one for the next 2 seasons. I have no issues with him being a 20-year-old in a season we're going to try to win a Memorial Cup. I have no issues with that at all.
No, because that's 3 years of Q seasoning and coaching and
yeah. So I have no issues with that at all. And look, if we continue to have success with these, OHL cast-offs, and we can find another goalie to bring in next year, I say do it. Mm-hmm. I'm not one to draft goalies high. I'm not that type of person unless it's a world-class goalie. I'm not taking a goalie high. I'm the kind of person.
So you're off at LaSalle at 12 if he slides?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Prankor or Prakor, whatever his name was.
Well, Pincor, but
if he's in like 9th and 10th round.
Well, that's it.
And that's one viewing. That's like, I have no idea how he played the rest of the season, but one viewing, the guy was unreal. So if a second-year draft eligible, he's in 9th and 10th round, bring him in, because a lot of teams struggle against left-handed goaltenders. They're just, and when was the last time we had a left-handed goaltender?
Yeah. It would have been.
It hasn't been since I was here.
Philip Gaudreau.
Yeah.
That one, probably that one guy.
Yeah.
We had like three goalies that were
right-handed, I guess it would be.
Right-handed in training camp that 1 year.
Yeah.
So I'm not one to draft a goalie in the first round, and like I said, unless we know that they're a bona fide guaranteed to be superstar. And so for me, it's if we can continue to find these guys from the OHL or even the WHL for that matter, bring them in. They're not costing us anything, and that's the way it is. I'm not going to go and take LaSalle in the first round. I'm not going to go take another goalie there. I think Beckman's his last name. I'm not going to take him in the first round. If you can find goalies for free, and they're going to play like Thomas Couture and they're going to play like Jacob Steinman, just keep doing it. Yep. And that's it. I'm an A, but I'm with you with Philly, and I don't think he's back next year, and it's not on him. He's going to want to play, right? And he
deserves to play.
Yeah, and there's the three Quebec teams that are in the semifinals. Well, pretty sure, without looking, 2 of their goalies aren't coming back because they're 20, right? Mm-hmm. Adams 20 and Lepenna's 20. And I think the other one, Rousseau, is 19. So Rousseau could potentially come back for Quebec, but there's probably going to be some teams that want a 20-year-old goalie.
Chicoutimi might need one,
right? There's going to be opportunity. There's going to be opportunities for him, and there's also another goalie in Halifax that's probably going to want out too, and that's Brady James.
Yeah.
Right, and at this point, Brady James, Vince Filion are both going to be 19-year-old goalies next year. Well, which goalie are teams going to want first? Well, it's going to be Brady James because he's played more.
Yeah.
Right. So at that point, you've got Filion. That's kind of that second goalie that's getting called about, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, you're right. There's going to be a market for him next year, and I'll be surprised if he's back.
Maybe he came in with the highest rated projection, came to Moncton. We put the MVP tag on him and how far we're going to go with him, and maybe being dealt is the chip on the shoulder he needs to just have an unbelievable final 2 years and kind of turn this thing around. So let's go defense, and I'll let you take the defense core.
Yes. So my defense core is, again, first half, no complaints. Second half, it was, again, a bit of a rocky road for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think B is going to be a very, popular grading. So I will go with a B plus. I think B plus. Yeah. On the basis that there were 3 defensemen that were absolute. There was a star defenseman. There was a, I don't know where you came from, but thank you for signing defenseman. And there was a first round pick defenseman that came as advertised.
Yeah.
Right. So we had Morin that's on track to surpass the franchise record for most points by defenseman. That's probably going to happen next season, barring injury. Hugo Marcel, again, have no idea where he came from. I think he was paying midget B or something like that, and somehow got seen and noticed and signed and made the team and was probably, I can't even put it into words just how impressive he was. He had his moments, but if he had a moment, he would kind of and redeem himself, right? He would totally redeem himself later in the game or down the road. And, we saw that. We saw it in game 2, where it was his turnover that led to the Bay-Como goal in overtime, right? But then in game 7, it was his pass to Baudouin along the boards that allowed for Baudouin to get it up to Barbashev on the breakaway, right? So he finds a way to redeem himself for his mistakes, and that's what I like about him. And Forte Jondron, I mean, you're literally looking at a guy that does he make mistakes?
Guy. Yeah.
It's so you're looking at 3 out of your 7 defensemen who were, to me, above my expectations. That's why I'm kind of in that B plus range, because you're looking at almost half of your defensemen surpassed my expectations, and that's where I'm at. That's the other 3. I mean, Blandowski skates like the wind. Ballantyne should have played more than what he did, but when he was moved up at forward, he was doing stuff, right? And yeah, exactly. Grenier, he's young. He's got an offensive flair to his game. Needs to work on his defensive side.
Yep.
And who am I missing? Hamel. Of course, I'm missing Hamel. How am I missing Hamel?
How are you missing Sniper's going to snipe?
How am I going to...
Triples his production, Hamel.
Hamel is... Hamel is Hamel. He's he could kick my ass, and that's why I don't want to say anything bad about him.
Kick both of our asses.
Yeah. That's true.
So the first half, I probably would have gone like B plus. Second half, I think everyone underestimated ISN's and Darcy's impact, so I'm gonna go C plus, because, and it's the 3 players you mentioned were great. Moran is stupid, like just a star. Marcel was, he had his mistakes, but then totally redeemed himself, and that's why I said last week, like, if it's Moran, Forte Jondron, and Marcel as our 3 moving in at least top 3 next year, absolutely. And for me, and I've mentioned it a few times, it's Forte Jondron, who, fun fact, he played 68 games this year.
Yeah. The
last Moncton Wildcat defenseman at 16 to play 68 games was Daniel McLeod in 96-97.
Daniel McLeod. My sister had a crush on him.
Nice.
She called him the ass man.
Nice. There was one that I got as well. In 2010, 2011. So he was invited. So I was going back to try and find the asterisks, and he was a defenseman that they invited out of camp. He was 18. So I was like, oh, there's the rookie, but he was actually 18. From Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, Dan Milan. No.
Could have been. What did I say, 2010? 2010, 2011?
Please be right. Please be right. Please be right. Please be right.
Yeah,
Please
Dan Milan. Yeah, 68 games, 14 goals, 38 points.
Nice.
But I was like, wow, that's production for
Dan the Man Milan.
for a 16. And then I went and found out he was 18 years old.
Yeah.
So actually, true 16. The Wildcats haven't had a 16-year-old play 68 games. 1 goal, 11 assists. Yes, he was a minus 24.
Come on, Adam.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Come on, Adam.
You got to be better. No.
Come on, Adam.
There was many nights I left the rink and you didn't even notice him. And that is 90% of the time a very good thing with a defenseman, especially a young defenseman. He made a good first pass out of the zone. Now, Moran played 67. The only game he missed, no, it wasn't even from the thing. He played 67, but he played 64 last year. He was a minus 12. But yeah, I think Forte Jondron is just going to turn into that absolute logging defenseman and shows why the Wildcats moved up to 14 to get him. And, you know, when they identify the guy they want, they're going to move up to get him. And that's why I'm, like we said earlier, I'm okay with that trade. But yeah, I was getting to the point where I was like, have we ever had a defenseman play every game? And the series in Baie-Comeau kind of really turned when he went out. He only played 4 games of the playoffs after being hit from behind. He only played not even one game in that Baie-Comeau series.
Yeah.
So it kind of turned because he's just that physical defenseman. There were quite a bit of turnovers from the D-core, more nights than I wanted, and they really got used to rimming that puck around. I think we just kind of underestimated how young the defense got when they got rid of Iasenza and Darcy. So for me, that's why it's a C+. Those 3 kind of elevated up. But, I mean, Hamel tripling his production was great. Valentine was good when he was in. He gave a kind of a physical presence. Plendowski, he'll be here next year, and him and his family are going to work on Gabe's skating.
That's right. Yeah. No fishing this summer, Gabe.
Nope. It's a C+ for me. And so now we get into the forward group. What do you got for the forward group there, sir? Sorry to ask you that as you took a drink.
I like the forward group.
Yeah.
A-.
I went B+.
I thought the forward group was, if it wasn't for the goaltending and around the back end, I mean, the forward group was basically the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Their top 6, I mean, their top 6 could have competed with probably the top 4 in the league. You know, if I would think their top 6 was probably the fifth best in the league, which was why, you know, it kind of adds up with being, you know, there was
the top 4 and maybe Victoriaville. Is that your 4th team? Probably.
I'd even
Rwanda maybe.
I'd even put ours kind of better than Victoriaville's.
Victoriaville was.
We made it. Victoriaville didn't make it out of the first round. We did. You know,
they were higher in the standings. That's why.
Well, who cares?
Yeah. No, I'm just asking if that's the team that you had 4th, because you had Moncton's top.
Well,
6
the 4 would be the 4 teams that are still left.
Did you not have Moncton as the 5th forward? Never mind. We're good. Keep going.
Adam's showing off his Alberta education here.
Golly.
Big UCP guy.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Tune in 2 weeks from now to see if Jeremy is still co-host of the show. Keep going.
No, we're going to have some players to. There's going to be players that are going to have to step up next year to replace the points. You know, LaBelle is going to be hard to replace. Barbashev's going to be hard to replace if he's not back.
Yeah.
And the fact that, remember, folks, he only signed a PTO with Hartford. It's not a contract, so he could be back. Tybell won't be back. You know, there's a lot of players here that, and it's like that every year. Your older players are always in most cases, your big contributors. Mm-hmm. So you have to have players that can replace that. But really, are we losing much? We could potentially have Barbashev back, which would be. Do I mind wasting 2 roster spots, a European and a 20-year-old on Max Barbashev? Absolutely not.
No.
I don't care if we're wasting 2 roster spots. But what does that do? You then have to decide, okay, well, which. I know this is a look back, so let's not get into the future. Let's do the look back. So yeah, A minus, just because there was the forward, the top 6 group was probably one of the in the upper echelon of the league.
Yep.
And they produced on most nights, and their point getters were their point getters. But we did also rely on the depth scoring at some point, and that's kind of where I'm at. Where my A minus, the depth scoring, if we would have gotten more depth scoring, I would probably in that A. But that bottom 6 kind of they didn't hold the team back, but they just didn't contribute enough.
No.
That's where I go with that's where I get the minus from.
And I go the teacher that really wants to give you the A minus, but they can't quite, so they go B plus plus, but B plus. And for me, it's the power play. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like for most of the year, it was very stagnant. I'm not comparing this power play to the Oilers' record-setting one, but you watch the Oilers, you even watch Halifax, you watch the top 4 teams, they're moving on power plays. And you could see Baie-Comeau, you could see Halifax. They started to kind of creep to Loshing because they know it's Moran, spin, LaBelle, back to Moran, back to Loshing for a one-timer. And that was their power play for most of the year. There wasn't a lot of carrying. There wasn't a lot of movement. Their PK was good. So for me, it's a B plus because the power play was it's kind of a letdown all year from a top 6 that you thought was going to take that next level. And they played pretty good on the power play, but it became too stagnant for most of the time.
Too predictable.
Yep. The bottom 6 I loved. Lounsbury was great. Tough injury for him. I guess he might have had a chance of playing Game 7 if it would have got there. Mueller was on a different level most of the year, and he got that World Junior bump, him and Ty Bell. They both got that World Junior bump to elevate their game. Gabe Smith was, from Game 1 to Game 68, he got much better. Alex Mercier, you took him off that 4th line and put him up due to injury in that top 6, and he showed why he is a top 6 player. So even guys like Cole Bishop, Luke McPhee, like they played their role to what they needed to do, and they did it well all year. So it's a B plus for me. So 3 questions that I wrote down that you kind of talked about. How many Euros are on this team next year? 1 or 2? Do you think
2?
No, do you think Barbs is back?
Oh,
like how many new Euros is what I mean?
Oh, how many new Euros?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think? Because I kind of think it'll be 2. I think Barbs will eventually sign his contract at the in the off season, and I think he plays in Hartford.
It's going to come down to how he performs in Hartford, right? So they have until, is it July 1st to sign him?
Yes.
Is that the cutoff?
I believe so.
So that's something to keep an eye on. It's if he performs, if he gets into Hartford's lineup, and I'm not sure who they're playing in the playoffs. I don't really follow the AHL very much.
Because it's hard to follow.
Yeah.
It's like a best of 3 and then a best of 5, and a team gets a bye, and it's a best of 5, and the higher seed gets to choose what they want if they want the first 2 at home.
So
it's crazy.
I guess it's going to come down to how he performs. If he's making an impact in that lineup, they're definitely going to be calling the Rangers and saying we need this guy signed. And
Providence is who they're playing.
Providence, yeah. So when's it kick off, or is it already kicked off?
They play Wednesday, May 3rd.
Because the Wranglers have already started.
Yeah.
Wranglers are like 2 games in.
And again, they had the choice of what series they wanted.
So they're up 2-0.
See if he's got any points.
Has he played yet?
I don't know.
Show us your number.
Nope.
No, is he even on the lineup?
Nope.
No.
Oh yeah, there he is, number 18.
18.
He's 49.
Yeah, so nothing.
It hasn't played yet.
Nothing yet. So
serious though.
Look at me. My name is Maxim. If he makes an impact, if he plays, and they like what they see, they'll definitely want to get him in the lineup there. But he was a 5th round pick, eh?
Yep.
So
because we know one's not coming back for sure, but
yeah, we know that for a fact. So Richie's kind of already got that. The player they want will definitely be their first pick.
Yeah.
They don't want to chance it. And that's what I hate about the import draft. There's no scouting involved. It's all connections.
who you know?
Who do you know?
Yeah.
And you look at who's been in the lineup before with Moncton. And what Europeans do they have? What agencies do some of these Euros have? And have we had any connections with these agencies in the past? And this and that. And you're like, oh, come on, this is bullshit. It should be literally, we draft you, you come here now.
Yeah.
You come.
Yeah.
We pick you, you come. That's
Be interesting to see if it's any of the teams that were here for the World Juniors. Like another Swiss player, another Latvian.
Man, those Latvians.
Finn.
The Latvians are the hardest workers.
Yeah.
And there's a Latvian that I like. So,
Yeah.
But I think he's just a year too old, which kind of sucks. I forget his name.
But it's not Bogdan Hot Ass, which is fantastic.
It's not Hot Ass. Everybody wants a hot ass on their team, but I think there's only one.
Nah, there is.
And sadly, he is with the WHL.
Yeah. So we asked this last year, and I get to ask it again. Last year, we asked where the scoring's coming from. Because we were going to lose one player in Brooklyn Kalmikov, who had 34 goals, 30 assists, and 72 points for the Wildcats. And then there was a bit of a drop-off with LaBelle at 44. Where's the scoring going to come from next year? Because Baudouin 72 points, LaBelle 69 points, Barbashev 65 points, and then Tybell at 39. Like, there's a lot of points that are out the door. Yep. It's going to be OJ taking the next step, Preston Lounsbury taking the next step, Alex Mercier in that top 6. These are guys that are going to be needed to be counted on. Maybe a free agent or two, but I think it'll be those two that will really, or those three that will kind of just have to really elevate their game coming in next season, and depending who else they get trade wise, because you can't count on Etienne Morin to lead the team in scoring and hope to be a playoff contender.
No, you're right, but so Mercier, I think he needs to finally play in the top 6, and I think he will. And I think he's going to be a big contributor next year. We'll still have Loshing. You'll probably have, if there's 2 new Euros next season, I think best case scenario is a one forward, one defenseman, unless there's a really, really good forward still available with your second pick, and he'll come. Mm-hmm. And usually imports are immediate top 6 players. So it's I think you can get points just based on Euros, and but if your defense, your decor is pretty much, I wouldn't say set, but there's not much. It's
one spot, Alex Swang.
Well,
no, there's probably 1 or 2 spots.
Yeah,
there's a 5th and maybe a 7th. That's kind of where, because
Mm-hmm.
right now coming back, you've got Moran, Fortier Gendron, Plandowski, Marcel, Ballantyne, Grenier. Yeah. That's your 6.
Mm-hmm.
There's maybe 1 to 2 spots because they do carry 7 or 8 defensemen at times. But right now, based on that, I would think if you're going to get 2 Euros, you maybe want an impact ones, maybe 2 forwards. Bring in an OHL free agent kind of defenseman like Ballantyne. And I mean, what did they bring in last time? 6 free agents last year, and we got Ballantyne, Marcel, and Steinman out of those 6.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good winning percentage. That's a pretty good batting average.
It's a lot better than what we used to do, where it was
18 guys,
quantity over quality.
Yeah,
but now it's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
I remember when we used to bring in 15 to 20 free agents a year. Makes a lot, Roger Shannon. Like you're
And
literally
get like
just
one,
yeah,
one maybe.
yeah. And that's a good focus now. Is you're literally get the quality over the quantity, and we don't need to bring in 10 free agents a year. Identify 3 or 4 or 5 that have a legitimate shot of making the team, and go from there. It literally reduced your billeting costs.
Yeah.
By not bringing 20 guys from out of town.
Yeah.
It's just. But no, there's free agents. There's Euro drafts. There's, the first overall pick. There's ways for the scoring to replace, and it's.
And there's in-house scoring.
Yep. Yeah,
And
Loshing's gonna probably one of the top goal scorers next year.
Yeah. And
whoever's playing on his wings are
Lotion, Lounsbury, and Mercier.
pretty good line.
Yeah, it's not bad. Lounsbury can go in the corners and get it. Mercier's got the skill, and Loshing's got the shot.
Yeah.
Mercier's got the shot too.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways to find scoring, and it's just a matter of getting them in the lineup.
The final question: cultural shift on and off the ice. Do they need it? Does it happen?
A cultural shift?
Yeah. Because off the ice, it needs to happen. This team is no longer a community team as much as they want to say they're community.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not in the community as much as they used to be. And, I'm not scared to share my opinions on the season ticket thing. You had the first overall pick you knew about. You had Moran going to Team Canada. You've got all this Moncton people are tuning in to see the Wildcats and see this stuff. I mean, we had 100 people watch our live.
Mm-hmm.
Capitalize on your renewals now. Cape Breton's given stuff, or Charlottetown's given their $250 savings by the end of the month, and you get a draw. Cape Breton, you have a chance to win your season tickets if you get them by the end of this month. Like, this is the time to get your renewals, not 3 weeks before training camp when it's kind of lulled down and you're like, oh, people are excited again. No, people are excited now.
Yeah.
Like, we have the first overall pick. Like, how many times on their post did people say, well, what's the number 1 overall pick? What are some of the names we're looking for? Like, people want to know, and this is your time to get the renewals, and this is your time to just shift it off the ice. When I say on the ice, I mean behind the bench. Off the ice, a complete shift, and I hope Hugo Bernier does that and brings it in. I'm excited because he's a hockey guy, but there's so many different small ideas you can do, and this team needs to be in the community more. Like, they have to be out at different events, even if there's 2 of them or 3 of them. Like I said on one of our shows, the Shoppers Drug Mart, Pink in the Rink. They were out there was 3 at different Shoppers all over Moncton and Kent. And you have to have the team out in the community if you want to bring in the casual fan.
They used to do a bunch of things. I remember when they used to do, they would be at a Sobeys and they'd be bagging your groceries.
Yep.
And, they'd be working the drive-thru at the Tim's or, it's just stuff like that. Like
my birthday, I got here on the 6th. They were doing the restaurant. Like, we arrived February 6, 2018. They were at not Moxie's. Montana's.
Yeah.
It was either February 5th or February 7th. I think it was February 5th because I was like, we shouldn't have stayed in Campbellton. We should have driven right through. But they were there that time. They were at Kelsey's a time before that. Like, you have to get these kids out in the community because you're not trying to pander to your season ticket holders. And that's when I bring up ticket ideas, it's not for me. I'm a season ticket holder. I buy the tickets. I'm going to the games. It's for attracting the single father with his son or daughter that goes to Shoppers to pick up something, and hey, there's 2 Wildcats there. They get a $5 voucher off. They might show up. Like, this team needs to be in the community more. There needs to be a shift and focus to back to when it was, because they just do the road hockey thing in training camp, and that's really it. The odd events, autograph things. They need to be in the community more. Coaching wise, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so the coaching thing is like I said earlier, I think Dan Lacroix did what he had to do in the first round and against Halifax to save his ass. If we lose that game 7, I think he's out. But we won the game 7 and we went into Halifax, 2 days later and won game 1. I think that saved his job, and there's been no announcement yet. We've been eliminated for 2 weeks, and usually these things are done fairly quickly. But you never know. The Serge Beausoleil move was completely out of the blue. The Brad Yetman move was completely out of the blue, and so you never know. It could be dropped tonight. It could drop tomorrow. But I think he's done enough to stick around, but he's probably on a short leash to start the season, maybe.
Yeah, he's definitely
that's just my personal opinion, because I think his deal ends at the end of next season.
Was it the end of next season?
I think so, because I think it was last 2 summers ago that he signed a 3-year deal.
Him and Heptage. They re-upped for 1 year, I thought.
Yeah.
Because in 2020 he signed a 3-year deal.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then I think they re-upped for 1 more year, so it might be the end of next season. But I think if he's here, if he's still the head coach by the time we come back to do the show, I think he's here to start the season.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I think it's shit. Like, I think cleaning house is what's needed. I mean, it's just the power play wasn't good all year. They had those second half lulls. I do believe, like you, I think beating Baie-Comeau saved his job. But the problem for me is he's going to go into the draft with Mr. Ritchie. They're going to put a plan together. They're going to get the players. And then if you move on from him at the start of the year, you're kind of playing catch up, coach-wise. Your candidates may be gone. And I'm not saying get rid of him just because Yetman's there and Beausoleil's out there. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't need a big name. I just need someone to get this whole team pulling in the right direction. And I think the fact that they have the first overall pick, you need to be sure that the coach you hire is the coach that's going to see this season, 24, and the Memorial Cup season. And I don't know if Dan is the coach to lead this group to the Memorial Cup, because there was just too many inconsistencies all season, and too many, they couldn't get the puck out sometimes, and then they were in scramble mode. It's just for me personally, nothing against Dan, like the guy, never talked to him in my life, but coaching wise, just keeping it on the ice, I think you need to kind of clean house a little bit, assistants and everything, and just give it a whole new shift. And because this coach has to be your coach going into the Memorial Cup, because you can't have one short leash and then 2 years when you actually host to start the 2025, you got another coach. This is kind of your guy that's going to build this for 2 years and be ready to go.
I mean, I don't. I mean, the D. It was an inexperienced D at the same time too, right? There was, you're seeing these, the 4 teams that are that are still in, they're there for a reason. They rarely make mistakes, and that's the thing. We made a lot of mistakes, but I think it was due to the fact that our D-core was so young. Yeah. So I don't want to put the blame on. I mean, turnovers aren't a result of coaching. It's a result of
the scheme to get out of your zone.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
how many times did I say to you, they keep rimming the puck around, they keep getting in trouble, right?
Yeah. No, I know.
Scheme wise, for me, it's the power play wise. Yeah. The PK is fine. I had no problem with the PK. It was pretty good all year, but I think if you're gonna shift things off ice and on ice, and the number 1 pick, and this sets the tone for your Memorial Cup host in 2025. Because did they have coaches just before they hosted, and was it a coach that'd been there for a few years and kind of?
They hired Ted Nolan
the year before,
the summer before the Memorial Cup, I think it was.
All right, never mind.
So it was
it can't be done.
They had a coaching staff. They had Ted Nolan. I think it was Ted Nolan, Danny Flynn, and Dan Lacroix, if I'm not mistaken. They had some names.
Right.
They brought in some names.
But I just don't want to get into the St. John, where they had a coach, and then he was let go, and then they brought another coach, and then they fired him in the playoffs, and they brought another coach. We're not gonna get Gardner McDougall to show up.
No.
I don't want that situation where we have 2 coaches. when we know we're hosting the Memorial Cup. I want someone who starts it and you can see the development from day one, and just I think he'll be here. But if he's not here by the time, if he's still here by the time we come back, that's 3 weeks from the draft. I think he's here for the foreseeable future. Yeah. But like you, on a shorter leash.
Yeah, and that's what I say. So Ted Nolan was the head coach. Danny Flynn was assistant. Dan Lacroix was assistant. France Bergeron was the goaltending coach. So Alan Power was director of hockey operations. Peter Nevin, Mike Yandel. Like, we had a staff. Like, that was a staff.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the better, like probably one of the better teams we put together. But yeah, that was that was a superstar bench. Yeah. You know, behind the bench it was 3 superstars, and that's why that's what the team was so good. But really, you can't go out and you can't afford 3 coaches like that right now.
No, and even to find one, they might not have the impact that you're looking for. I don't care what the name is. I just want them pulling the wagon the same way. And there's a lot of times where scheme-wise, and I'm not a coach or never claimed to be and know a lot of schemes, but there were a lot of nights where they just didn't look like they were in it. And so we'll see. We don't make those decisions. We're just 2 guys that sit behind and make our voices heard. But that'll do it for this show. Wee bit longer, but hey.
That's okay.
We're not going to be here for 2 weeks. So we're coming back in 2 weeks, May 17th, with one of our 2 draft pre-shows. As like I said, we get you ready for the Wildcats draft as they have the number 1 overall pick. We're trying to line up some guests for both the May 17th show as well as the May 31st show. Then the June 7th is the actual mock draft. Get you ready for round 1. And then we're in Sherbrooke 9th and 10th of June. And then the season 6 finale is June 14th, the post-draft show. And we'll see if we can line up a nice big guest as we usually do. And then that's it for the summer, my boy.
Perfect.
Nice.
All right. Break.
For Jeremy, I'm Adam. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wildcast Podcast. Follow us on social media at Moncton Wildcast.